In this video, I'm going to show you how to easily build powerful and interesting decks regardless of budget or limitations. I've made a bunch of videos about deck building, all of which are worth watching, but there's something that I keep seeing that still hinders people from building good or unique decks, and that's a lack of focus. So I'm going to talk about that and give you an incredibly simple, fun, and unique technique to turn your next deck from a mess into an absolute banger. But first, I know how this happens. One sees a spicy new commander you want to build around, you get excited, and before long you're lost in the deck building source, and have a list of 183 cards in a deck builder. You then get overwhelmed with how to cut cards or make your deck do the thing that you want. And when you do manage to cut that list down, the deck probably doesn't do the thing, and you're left tweaking a deck that probably is destined for the shelf of shame. It happens to the best of us. I think many players think this happens because they don't know the game or cards well enough. But I'm happy to tell you that's not the problem, and that the real issue is much easier and less overwhelming to solve. What's really causing this is a lack of clear vision of who your deck is and what they are trying to achieve. Yes, I just called your deck a who, but more on that in a bit. If my other videos teach you all the intricacies of how to forge a well-constructed blade, then this video helps you understand what kind of blade you're forging in the first place and then how to sharpen that blade to perfection. Okay, so focus. Our decks, like our lives, are finite, and much like you only have a finite amount of time to spend to master a limited number of things in your life, your deck only has a finite amount of cards to support a certain number of things that it can reliably do well. If you want more context on this, the math really do be mathin', and I have a video here that explores the topic in detail. But in the spirit of focus, the magic number of things that your deck can reliably do well is in most cases about 5. But what exactly is a thing in this context, and how do you decide which of them it needs to do? Well, I'd like you to think of your deck like a character in a role-playing game. They'll have a specialization or class, and then abilities or skills that align with it. These things I just mentioned are your character's abilities. Say they were a mighty warrior. They would have weapons, buffs to their strength, powerful attacks, and defensive abilities to help them win their fights. Or perhaps your character is a powerful wizard, with an array of spells to control the battlefield. They may have magic artifacts to augment their spells and pinpoint manipulation spells, not to mention ones that counter your opponent's abilities, and of course some heavy hitters, like crowd control spells or big powerful ones to turn the tide of the conflict. In a game, a powerful character is usually the product of specialization, where you focus on and invest into certain of your abilities to make them more powerful. And then you match those abilities together to create synergy and a situation where 1 + 1 = 3. Anyone that's cast a spell at a high level in a game like D&D or min-maxed a character in an MMO knows exactly what I mean here, and your commander decks are no different. Look at the words printed on your commander as their primary abilities that inform what the secondary abilities are that you're going to add to round out their toolkit. In most cases, you'll think about what you want your character's secondary abilities to be, and then you'll go and find the cards to fill your deck that do those things. This collection of abilities should have a close alignment and work together to create a cohesive route to victory. I'm going to get to some practical examples in a minute, but whether you currently think of it in this way or not, it's the act of proactively choosing your specialization and abilities before you start looking at cards for your deck that make or break whether your deck is going to be good or bad. Having a strong vision of your character, like who they are, what skills you're going to use, and how they're going to use those skills to win the battle, will make looking for cards to fill your deck much easier. Not to mention making cutting cards infinitely easier than you probably find it right now. If you're enjoying this, I make videos like this that help you think differently about Magic and Commander. Videos that will help you build better decks, play better, and have more fun. If you want more of that, like the video and subscribe to the channel to tell the algorithm gods that you think it's good, and so that YouTube delivers my next banger directly into your eyeballs. Okay, so far we've talked a lot about concepts, so let's make it a little bit more practical, and then we'll finish off with another banger conceptual idea. We're going to look at 3 examples to put this into practice, starting with my recent Budget Bracket 3 Vincent Vengeful Atoner deck. Taking into account what Vincent does, I saw very much an assassin game plan. Hit early, hit hard, and take everyone down in as big a blaze of glory as possible. This was never a return trip for us, so who cares what happens beyond our mission? In terms of Vincent's design, let's look at his first 2 primary abilities. He wants creatures to hit your opponents, so to me, this ability requires us to create as many small, hard to block guys as we can get, so that's the first thing our deck wants. Then if we look at his second ability, if he's big and deals damage, he creates our Blaze of Glory. This to me immediately meant two things. He wants to get as big as possible, as fast as possible, and we've got to make sure he connects. In terms of what this translates to into the cards in our deck, it means a variety of pump effects, cards that help him hit opponents, and ways to protect him. Let's look at a very different example in my budget bracket 3 Galazeth Prismari deck. In this case, we are a greedy dragon that wants to amass and sit atop a giant pile of treasure which we can use to fuel our magical spells. We are very much a wizard. As far as abilities go, the first thing our draconic wizard would want is the ability to make artifacts and treasure. We hunger for more mana and power, and for that we need as big a mountain of treasure as possible. Then we'll want to use that overwhelming power to control the battle, as we build up to a crescendo where we unleash a fatal torrent of fire onto our pitiful enemies. Naturally, we are going to become a problematic threat for our opponents, who will try their best to thwart us, and we will need both ways to protect ourselves and ways to draw more spells. For the third example, let's look at a very different style of deck in my budget bracket 4 Stella Lee combo deck. Stella is a quick drawing, spell-slinging rogue that wants to be rapidly firing off spells and then magically copying them. She has some spells in her arsenal that are a one-hit kill, and she just needs to find one and then have the mana reserves to cast it and enough other spells to allow her to copy it. This means the first thing that she wants is the ability to make more mana so she can get up to this critical mana threshold as fast as possible. She'd also want to be able to dig through her spellbook till she finds those critical one-hit spells. She wants to draw cards. She's a prime target because opponents know the threat she poses, but she doesn't want to sit around waiting for them to get her and wants to come in swinging. But they are going to try and stop her, so she needs some ways to protect herself. And there you have it. 3 highly thematic, unique play experiences, all of which just happen to be very strong. Once I have a strong vision, it makes it so much easier to go and hunt for great cards on Scryfall, or to cherry pick relevant cards for my character from tools like EDHREC. At this point, I want to point out 2 key things. The first is that obviously all 3 of these decks are budget decks, and I've deliberately used them because they are both budget and strong. Magic can be very expensive, and I occasionally see the opinion that it takes well-known, strong or expensive cards to have a competent or competitive deck. But that is fundamentally not true, and I want people to have the best possible experience for the least investment. CEDH is an exception here, but at bracket 4 and below, what makes a strong deck is picking a good commander, then having a clear vision of what you want your deck to do, and then how focused your execution of that vision is. Secondly, I know that many players struggle to fit all the things that they want into their decks. What often happens is that things that one really needs for a strategy, be it ramp, card advantage, removal, or heaven forbid lands, gets removed in favor of the good stuff. But that good stuff may not align with your character's specialization or abilities, when one of those things that got cut really did. Clear vision and relentless focus in execution of that vision gives you clarity about what your deck really needs, and allows you to break all the deck building rules and conventions because you've truly understood those rules and why breaking them with this specific character is a good thing. This allows you to min-max rather than ending up with a confused pile of cards cosplaying as a cohesive commander deck. Okay, so far we've mostly focused on strength, but I did promise you the ability to build interesting decks as well. In addition to thinking about your deck as a character and their specialization and abilities, giving them a story can also aid you in focusing your strategy and card choices, but more importantly, it can also help to create more interesting and unique experiences for you and the people that you play with. For example, maybe your warrior commander was abandoned as a child and picked up by a horrible band of mercenaries. Your rough, often abusive upbringing was punctuated by a particularly cruel and nasty captain who'd get drunk and throw blades at you. You learned to fight to survive, but out of spite, you vowed never to use any weapons, choosing to beat people down with your fists instead. You eventually escaped, and now wander the lands as a solo mercenary. Poor and often aggressive, but fair and just. As a commander and deck, this could be a budget Voltron list that aims to win early, use plenty of thematic cards, and you sure as hell won't use any equipment. You get the idea. Whether you're approaching this very practically and simply want the best deck, or you're in this for the flavor and plan to go full roleplay mode, or perhaps you're somewhere in between, remember that the most important part of building your banger new deck happens before you start looking at other cards. Focusing properly on your commander early will give you strong direction that will see that focus continue throughout your build process. Doing this well and thinking for yourself rather than having your deck be dictated by what you find online will catapult you far beyond your peers as a deck builder. If you do all this, you'll end up with focused, strong, and interesting decks that you will love to play and others will love to lose to. Let me know in the comments if you've thought this way about deck building before, and if not, whether this has helped you. I've also created a deck building character sheet for you so that you can use that if you want to brew your next banger. I've left the link to that, as well as everything else I've mentioned in this video, down below the like button. Last but not least, if you try this, come and let me know in the base deck department Discord or on Blue Sky how it went. And as always, thank you for being here.